Hey everybody, Dan Metcalf, Jiu Jitsu off the ground video log, sort of quarantine project. I am a 40-year-old brown belt, 4 stripes on my Hoist Gracie brown belt, 2 stripes on my Judo brown belt. Coach a couple times a week at Capital Jiu Jitsu in Tacoma Park. This is mainly for my students there. My sense is there's going to be a lot of awesome technical content that is going to come out shortly here in response to the coronavirus quarantines. Wanted to offer a slightly more maybe kind of window into what I'm thinking about and the stuff that has sort of kept me going. Looking forward to getting some technical content together soon. But for now, just wanted to, especially with I happened to come across this, the Book of Five Rings in my local little free library, and I read this quote yesterday. The true science of martial arts means practicing them in such a way that they will be useful at any time, and to teach them in such a way that they will be useful in all things. And I feel like I have a couple concepts like that I wanted to share. So if you'll bear with me, this will be the first episode of Jiu Jitsu off the ground. So in Jiu Jitsu, one of the first things that we learn about is that concept of the triangle. If you've ever seen this symbol, the sort of Gracie G or Gracie triangle, it is. I think they chose it because it's the most stable, right? To have these 3 legs on the ground, and it can be interpreted in a bunch of different ways. In my life, nicely backlit here, I would say I've sort of come to think of it as being supported by 3 legs. And I think it's kind of generalizable to a lot of people's lives. That my life is supported in a way by my family, my work, and jiu-jitsu, and the practice of jiu-jitsu. And those 3 kind of work together in a way in this sort of like triquetra or like triscale or sort of this mutually supporting weave. My work, I'm a residential realtor, so my work is largely composed of advising people, marketing on their behalf, and negotiating on their behalf. So that's how my work kind of breaks down as far as the 3 broad categories of the things that I do. And of course, each of those categories has a number of tasks associated with it. And then my family, I kind of think of it generationally, really sort of, my wife, my children, and then sort of, parents, friends, siblings, that kind of not quite in the nuclear unit. But really, without that extensive family, not really as connected as it needs to be. Now, my jiu-jitsu, I've started to conceptualize, especially when I started coaching, as being divided into sort of newaza, like the sport of jiu-jitsu, and really, ground technique. And it's important to understand that newaza is going to be taught differently for different purposes. It's going to be taught differently in the context of rules-based jiu-jitsu versus, jiu-jitsu where you're factoring some striking versus judo where there's pinning or wrestling. Tachiwaza, broadly standing technique, which for me right now looks more like the sport of judo, which, you can get into a whole thing of, judo as being Greco in the jacket or whatever. But basically, I think these are the 2 that people are sort of more familiar in the broader jiu-jitsu context. And then finally, the self-defense, which, especially as a Hoist Gracie affiliate, Capital teaches the Hoist Gracie self-defense. And I would say it's kind of, you got the sport of standing, the sport of on the ground, and no sport. And then in turn, to me, jiu-jitsu is supported by strength conditioning and mobility. And each of these is divisible in its way into 3 categories of broad categories of activity. So there you go. Time to walk back from here to the studio. And we're back. So all the way from the garage. I don't know if that's applicable to your life. I hope it is. To me, I think it was primarily helpful in understanding that once I took up this hobby or activity that kind of gobbles up all the other hobbies, or it can be knit together with those other things, you can start evaluating your actions on the basis of whether they serve those things. Notably absent, of course, from all of what I put up there is sort of nutrition. But I just feel like for me, for example, I used to play mandolin, and that kind of had to fall by the wayside in the context of those other priorities. And I don't know if that's a framework for helping others, but I just wanted to share that as far as something that had been interesting to me and had really helped me as far as conceptualizing priorities. I hope that helps. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next clip, where we will start to get into some more fundamental stuff. And thanks for watching.